Well, it said on our screen we're live, so we must be live. We must be live. So,
hello, everyone.
I'm really dazed by the light. I've been trying to sort this bulb out, and it's not worked. But I'm now, and you can see green flashing in front of your eyes.
Yeah, 5 minutes ago, Wendy was doing all this with the light.
I'm really sorry. I still haven't saw it. It came back on and then it's gone back up again. So if I'm in the dark, apologies.
We're always in the dark in this show. So let's do a few of the usual welcomes. Welcome back, Philip. Now, Philip and Jeremy the Ape tuned in an hour before, so I feel quite guilty about that because I was going to put a kind of notice on the event saying that we've had a bit of a check around, but I forgot. So you can blame me for that. So
we will.
Yeah.
No, not really. I completely forgot to tell people as well, so we can't leave it all on you. But
everybody's saying happy World
Vegan Day.
Happy World Vegan Day, everyone.
We're really happy to celebrate with all of you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Richard.
No, just thinking the first the first reference to Star Wars already. That's interesting, but. There you go. Maybe it's what's the Star Wars Day? That's the 4th of May, isn't it?
May the 4th. Yeah. May the 4th.
Yeah. Okay, so welcome to the I'm Right Show, everyone, and we're doing a new thing today because. Carry on, Noah.
Could you put Jeremy's comment on the screen because I really love that one. Happy Respect Our Fellow Animals Day.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's always got to change the language, hasn't he? Yeah. Happy Respect for Our Fellow Animals Day, everyone. So just to explain to everyone tuning in on TikTok, when you see the name Jeremy the Ape comes up, who will actually be appearing on screen later, you're dealing with a troublemaker there, so don't worry about that. So there is that to be deal with.
Takes one to know one.
I heard that.
Who said that? Who said that?
So veganism, we've got our first 2 guests lined up already, but so veganism, just very, very incredibly briefly, we're not, this is a bit of a disclaimer really, we're not saying that when the vegan society or the vegan social movement was founded in the 1940s in Britain, that was the start of what you might call veganism. So there's gonna be things that you could probably call veganism earlier than that. So we're not making any other claim apart from the fact that the first, as far as we know, organized social movement, which is people coming together in order to change society, and that was their aim. It was a cause for them. That was developed in 1944, and so we all know that the vegan society came into being during the Second World War. The vegans declared peace during the time of this global conflict. And then when you get to vegan philosophy, you've got to wait a few years because the vegan social movement was a bit chaotic at the beginning. So Donald Watson, the best known of the co-founders, he was really kind of left to it. And then by the time we get to 48, 49, Leslie Cross comes back on the scene and says, okay, we've got a definition of the vegan diet, but we don't have a definition of veganism. And so from about 48 through to 55, the society worked on vegan philosophy and defining that idea. And so this is what we now kind of call veganism. But as we do know also, social movements do evolve. So we've got a contested version of veganism now, we might say. But anybody want to add any more to that?
No, I think it's what you said there, Roger. It's quite important, isn't it? Because there's often sort of disagreement about, veganism wasn't the start of veganism or animal rights or that kind of way of thinking. And I think, like as you said, it's just there have been other. Oh, the bulb just went out again. I'm going to be probably in and out. There have been other communities and cultures that have eliminated other animals, maybe from their diet, or who have advocated and embodied kind of different relationships with other animals and more respectful relationships. So by no means is veganism without preceding influences or ideas and wisdom. But I suppose it's just, like you said, it's the first time it was really brought together, given a name, sort of the philosophy was set out. And then, of course, given a definition eventually, and then it's kind of built momentum and taken off as it has. I suppose that's what we're celebrating, really, isn't it?
I think some people might be kind of confused about how come they didn't define it earlier, because actually what Cross said, he understood the chaotic start to this movement, but now it's time for that kind of thing. So it's quite interesting. They were quite accepting that their early years would have been a bit chaotic, and I suppose for us in the 21st century, we've got to think back. We're talking about pre-internet. They were sending letters out to each other and this kind of stuff. They were telephone calls, which they had to pay for in those days and all that. And so they were on a real shoestring. So the actual organization, it's not as though you'd make a Facebook page and off you go. Back then, it takes a long time to go. So should we bring our first guests on then, folks?
Yeah, and actually, we've got a nice link here, actually, because... Oh, sorry, Lena, you're going to say something.
I just want to say that the struggle for liberation and justice sometimes takes place in the street and sometimes takes place in the amphitheaters. So our first guests are from the academia.
Indeed. So let's bring them on.
Yeah. Hey, Corey.
Hello.
Hey, Linda. Linda, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Linda.
You're on mute, Linda.
I was working on it. I'm here now.
Happy World Vegan Day.
Terrible light, as you can see.
We've just been talking about the light because my bulb keeps going off and on.
So who would have thought we were going to start with some sociologists? So welcome along to the show.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I know you're just fresh from your launch, aren't you?
So how do you want to celebrate World Vegan Day? Any of you?
Well, what I think is interesting is of our wonderful journal, which I'm going to give a plug to. Yeah, so that was the sociological way we wanted to celebrate today. But also of interest, I've also done research into the history of the Vegan Society and looked through their journals like Roger has. And when did they bring out World Vegan Day? Was it 1994?
Yeah, 1994. There is a suggestion it was 93, but Louise Wallace, who created it, said 94 because it was the 50th anniversary, and so she was working for them at the time, and so she came up with it.
Yeah. Does anyone know why it's on November 1st?
Because they don't know what the actual date is. That's why.
Well, from what I read, and I can't remember where I read it now, but they intentionally chose November 1st because what was yesterday, but All Hallows Eve, right? The Day of the Dead, when the veil is the thinnest. And then today, of course, being the day we remember that the dead. So where I guess yesterday you remember the dead, and then today it's remembering the living. So they kind of intentionally chose to put on the other end of Samhain, on the other end of Halloween, so that we could commemorate all the suffering and the death that animals go through, be realistic about it, but also today is a day to celebrate the good parts of it. So it was intentionally chosen for that particular time. So I thought it was kind of neat.
It is.
Yeah, and Louise said that the idea was to promote something positive. And so she was talking about how all the groups at the time were against things, and she wanted to create a day when we were for something. So that was one distinction.
Yeah, we had Louise on last year, didn't we, on the show? She did a recording for us.
Yeah, I posted it on my Facebook page today if people want to revisit it. The sound's not great, but it's still there.
I just want to also give a disclaimer, because with the Vegan Society, I think now that the World Vegan Day has gone beyond the Vegan Society, although they originally started it as sort of a campaign, a way to kind of get media presence, which, by the way, Linda and I are finding out we're doing a content analysis of British newspapers. And actually I'm in charge of, I'm coding October and November. And I'm finding that actually that World Vegan Day it does work marketing wise. Like the news agents are picking up on it and reporting on whatever events. So that's good. But this is beyond, the campaign that the Vegan Society created in order to, raise awareness to its own thing. This is now about veganism as a world phenomenon. And I do want to do a bit of a disclaimer, because right now the Vegan Society is a bit of a shame. There's some nasty stuff that went down recently as far as some internal issues with racism and bullying. And so some people are protesting World Vegan Day because of that reason. So I think that we do need to be aware that when we're talking about World Vegan Day and coming together and all this positivity, we want to be careful of like who is we and who feels welcome here and who's feeling represented and who feels that they're getting that allyship and solidarity. So just putting that out there.
Yeah. Also, the idea of having a particular day once a year is kind of a bit old hat now as well, isn't it? Because, you know, there's vegan stuff going on all the time. I suppose one of the things that Louise had in mind was that it would provide a focus for, you know, vegans to get together and do stuff, whereas they're doing that all the time now. So there is that movement difference too now, I suppose.
Mm.
You're getting a lot of go vegans. So it's a vegan songstress on TikTok saying, go vegan all.
So, would you like to tell us a little bit more about your event that you just had, your launch? And actually, there's Linda Carol in the comments has said earlier that they really appreciate all the background information and the sociological information as well. So,
Linda, you should also talk about your spot on the sociology show today.
Oh yeah. That was a podcast I did last week that was released this morning for World Vegan Day. First question was, what was vegan sociology? So filled that in. That's available. I think there's links to that all over Twitter. Our launch today was great. It's the first volume of the Student Journal of Vegan Sociology, which sits under the umbrella of the International Association of Vegan Sociologists, of which Corey is a founder member. So really exciting. We had lots of papers received over the last year. Some amazing. There's a collective of scholars, postgrad scholars like myself, who are all kind of committed to the cause and trying to get vegan sociology accepted in the mainstream of social science. So this is our small contribution to that. And we launched the journal earlier on at 4 o'clock with most of the papers, most of the authors of the papers speaking as well, which is great. And for some of them, it's the first time they've submitted to a journal at all. For some of them, it's the first time they've been accepted, and for a couple, it was the first time that they'd done a presentation about their work as well. So, as well as being for their creative thought processes, it's also a great experience for them and trying to encourage the scholars of tomorrow. So there's more of us talking about stuff like this. It's the idea, anyway.
And you picked the day on purpose, did you, Linda? Yeah.
Yeah, we did and we didn't. Initially, it was going to be the beginning of October, and then as time marched on, we thought, you know, we might as well hang off because we need some final edits and whatnot, and it seemed the right day to do it. If you can't do something like this on World Vegan Day, when can you? So, yeah, it ended up being on purpose, but it wasn't initially meant to be that way.
It's going to become World Vegan Sociology Student Day soon, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I think that was really cool, the sociology show.
Yeah, you can never have too many days.
So the sociology show, which by the way is a British podcast, and they did intentionally today for World Vegan Day. So there was their little act of solidarity.
Yeah, I posted that as well. Do you want to do a bit of a call out for papers, Linda, do you think? Or I mean, I don't know if this is the audience, but maybe people could share the idea.
Listen, anyone's the audience. Yeah, we're asking already for people to think about whether it's undergrad students. The only stipulation is that you don't have your PhD yet. That's the only thing that we're asking in terms of who can submit a paper. So they can go to vegansociology.com, and there's details of the journal there and the email address, the requirements of the paper in terms of style and whatnot. And we're looking for submissions by Hogmanay, 31st of December this year, to start the process for volume 2, which I anticipate will probably launch exactly this day next year. We might as well make that an annual occurrence as well. So yeah, I'm excited about it, and anyone that has anything to say is welcome to submit their paper. It goes through a peer review process with at least 2 reviewers, and then obviously the reviews will kind of back and forth. And hopefully by the summertime they would be making any changes that need to be made. But it was we tried to keep it very supportive so that people understood, the writers understood maybe where they had to be a little bit more clear, or maybe to use different language, like instead of using meat or animals, to say animal food or non-human animals specifically. So for them, it's a learning curve for us to get away from this kind of normative discourse where we use words like that without thinking. So yeah, it's been great. And yeah, so the call for papers is live now, and you've got a couple of months to get something in.
Excellent.
I feel we're outnumbered on here, Nella, because we've got 3 sociologists on the screen. I must say though, I do feel like I've got a sociologist inside me, an inner sociologist, because I'm fascinated with it all. But I just wonder if I could ask the 3 of you actually, why do you think sociology is so important to the movement? And how can we? Because maybe people in the chat are maybe not that familiar with some of the work that you're doing and things like that. But how do you feel? Why is it so important? How can it inform us in our advocacy?
Yeah, the question I was going to ask is, and I'd also ask, do we think sociology is now taking its place alongside psychology as being popular in the movement, or has it still got a way to get up there?
What do you think?
I think it's got a way to get up there yet, because I think that, you know, the nature, the neoliberal kind of nature of things nowadays, I think people do focus on individuals rather than structures and groups.
So Roger's hitting it right on the nail. That is exactly what makes sociology unique, and so absolutely needed in the animal rights discourse, is that this focus on the individual, which psychologists do. It's not just the neoliberalism of people's interests and how people have been socialized, but I think also is very relevant for the politics of nonprofits, because it's all about individual persuasion, which is a lot easier to put on, you know, your grant proposals and your annual reports. Look what we did about this many pamphlets we handed out and this much reduction in how much meat people ate. You know, that's that individualistic stuff. It's a lot more difficult to do that structural level, systemic level change. For sociologists, we want to challenge the capitalist system. So the popularity of the big green market, the big vegan market now, the big vegan marketplace, of course, we have criticisms of that, and that's not very popular in the movement either. One thing that I think that sociology could speak to, however, is that there's a slightly growing awareness, at least from some critical groups and individuals, about the importance of food justice and the importance of challenging subsidies that go to big animal ag, and instead working for policies that push that subsidy in a more fair way. But sociology really, yeah, I agree with Roger, has a long way to go, because we're doing the critical thinking, the systemic level stuff, and it just doesn't fit neatly into grant proposals. And and just in general, we've been socialized to be very individualistic and think about persuading one person at a time, when personal choice is not really the crux of the issue here. It's the system that's set up to create paths of least resistance for people. So from the sociological perspective, we want to create a system where the paths of least resistance are to choose plant-based, to be compassionate towards others. It's a lot harder to do that.
And Linda, do you think you getting, as it were, the young students involved? Do you reckon that's going to really help the process? Because in theory, it shouldn't it?
It's good, and I think though vegans just still shouldn't body. So one of the things I'm trying to do with my doctorate is look at young vegan children in primary school and see what their experiences are like, because that's really where it starts. It's the socialization process, which I mentioned last time I was on, you know, about how things that are just accepted as normative, that's where you need to start. You need to change the narrative. Really can't do that till you start at the beginning. But this diet and the green economy and whatever has been happening is great in many ways, but yeah, it's the system that's at fault, really, because if it wasn't for all this big business making a lot of money out of animal abuse, then, you know, we wouldn't be having to sit here and talking about this stuff. There wouldn't be an animal rights show. So yeah, we need to change the system. It is difficult, but, and I know that, again, going back to the psychology thing, I have a psychology degree as well, and that's what I found, the social psychology aspect of things, the group think and that kind of collective thinking that people just aren't willing to challenge things, or not willing to change things. So so they need to start. They're incredibly powerful. Just seeing if they're going to end up getting the funding for it. I've had to self-fund sample because there's no money in any pot for it. So it does change things. I'm
Linda,
not sure if I've
what?
answered your question.
Well, one area that we are, I think, very popular, but it blends over into psychology is the sociology of language, politics of language. I know my students really light up from that. My students come from all different disciplines. Activists get really excited by that. It's something that is heavily debated. That comes straight out of sociological theory, the power of language, the symbolic power of language. But again, that kind of blends into social psychology. So unfortunately, it's not completely a point for us.
As a non-sociologist, I would like to say that, in my opinion, sociology is not important only for those who study it. It's important for anyone in any movement. It really helps us understand how speciesism works, in this occasion, for example, and that everything, all the events I have attended, your sociology, the Vegan Sociology Conference lately, it was available to everyone. Everyone had access. Students, activists, whomever wanted to learn from that. It was a great learning experience, and it always is. And very often, the sociological texts on speciesism are not that specialized that an advocate, an activist cannot understand, are not written for the elites. At least this was my my takeaway from every time I have engaged with sociology within the movement.
Excellent feedback. I wanted to say, like, there's two, like you said, it's not just specific to one discipline. This theory can be used by activists as easily. Two of the big ones that are, I think, maybe of interest to people who are non-sociologists or just non-academics is, if you want to learn more about the critique of capitalism, come to sociology. That's what we specialize in. That's really where we shine. And the other area, if you want to really glean something from sociology, is our feminist politics or intersectional politics. I think that you can really learn a lot from the sociological theory in those two regards. And psychology is not going to give you that. Psychology is not going to give you the capitalist critique. They don't recognize that. It's not at too systemic level, right? And as far as intersectionality, the most that I have seen coming out of vegan psychology is looking at attitudinal similarities between people who have, say, bigoted views against women. You'll see if that correlates with bigoted views against animals. But again, that's very personality related. And we want to know as sociologists what's going on in the system that's going to create those correlations. Why is it that we see men are more likely to have these bigoted views towards women and other animals? Why is it that we see people of certain religious denominations are more likely, political denominations, political leanings are more likely to have these correlated views against bigoted views, basically? So sociologists want to look at what's the context creating this? What is creating gender? What is creating class? What is creating race? What is creating species? What's the economic motivation? What's the political motivation? What's the cultural motivation? Not just these personality characteristics that may or may not be innate. Social psychology is a little bit more flexible than it does recognize the social influence, but ultimately psychology is very much so focused on those personality characteristics and attitudes, where sociology is going to ask you, well, where does this stuff come from in the first place? And a lot of that we're looking at economic modes of production. So in our system, we're looking at the capitalist system.
Well, before we let you go,
sorry.
Carry on, Linda. Sorry, there's a delay on your line.
I was just going to add to that, Roger, but the theme. Okay, the theme of the conference this year was about seeing the sociological imagination. Kind of sociologists really to be discussing the change. I mean, August back beginning was saying, the whole point is to try and cure society's ills, and if society's ills are the way that we treat other beings, human or not, then that's part of the problem. And sociology definitely is a vehicle for doing that. Sorry for my flashing camera as well. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
we can see your face now, Linda. You were in the dark before, a bit like me and Nella, but now you're bright. glowing.
Everybody's hiding. So, Corey, I wonder whether you recognise this. I think you will. And so we've got. Let me just bring that down. We've got Bernie Wright coming on later to talk about the Irish situation, but obviously you've got a book about. Yeah. So it turns out that she was a journalist. I guess you knew that, but the dates are interesting because in your book you said she went vegan in 1949. Here they say that she went vegetarian in 1934 and then vegan not many years later.
I've not seen this. This is from 1997. I've not seen this. I saw the original newspaper article from the 40s or whatever. I didn't see. Is this an obituary?
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah. So I think it's in the Irish Times because I think she probably wrote for the Irish Times. So I just thought that'd be quite interesting. We're going to be bringing this back when we talk to Bernie. Probably. I just thought you might like to see that a little bit. So I think it's time for us to move on now. We've never done this before, which is kind of like transfer from people all the time to other people. So it's a bit difficult. So it's like, right, goodbye and hello, that kind of thing. So
I just want to say to Corey and Linda as well, I'm sorry, this journey is really exciting because I think it's making it very accessible, as Nella alluded to earlier, in that some academic work is very academic and it's hidden away, you don't get access to it. But I love the fact that you're bringing this work to all of us to kind of see the scientific research that's going on and the analysis, and it's accessible to all of us activists. So I think it's brilliant.
Thanks,
Thank
Wendy.
you. I know it's really hard when you've got Brian's bum waggling in your face. I have to contend with this on a weekly basis. But he's lovely.
Thank you for having us. And if anyone wants to check out more of our work, go to vegansociology.com. We've got all of our lectures and the new journal and blog posts and lots of resources and a newsletter where you can sign up and find out about what we're up to next. Thank you for having us.
Great.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for being here.
Brilliant.
yeah, thank you for starting off our celebration. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Oh, Brian, you've turned my light off. That's really hot.
No,
Turn the light off.
We're actually in time.
Are we ahead?
No, yeah, we're a little bit ahead. So this person might be a bit of a challenge to whether we're going to stay in time or not, I would say.
Oh,
Ronnie Lee. Hello,
There we go.
Ronnie.
I've got my special t-shirt on today, as you can see.
ooh, great.
There we go.
And I can see the banner behind you.
Yeah, you
oh,
got your
the
vegan
banner, yeah, the
flag.
vegan flag, which one day will be flying all over the world as we take control. That's my plan, anyway.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's our plan.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be on for massively long tonight because we've got a cat that's not very well, and I have to give her special food and special
Sorry, everyone, I'm
tablets.
just trying to turn my light back on.
I've got to do that, so I can't stay forever. Everyone will be relieved about that.
Oh, you can't get enough. You can't get too much Ronnie Lee, I don't think.
No.
I think
Louise might disagree with me. Louise is probably in the corner going, "Yes, you bloody can."
oh, she's bound to be. Yeah, bound to be.
There's probably loads of people saying that. I don't know. So
Probably.
we've got you.
Yeah,
We got you
Very
slated
quietly.
to talk about. We got you slated to talk about the early years, Ronnie, because
The
you're
early years,
you're
Ronnie.
very, very old, as I said one time in.
Well,
the
you mean at the
podcast.
turn of the century, before it was called vegan?
Yeah,
When I first-
you would when you were writing vegan leaflets on slates. That's what we're talking about now.
That's right. When we communicated with smoke signals and stuff. Yeah. Oh, and organised stuff through that. Yeah. Well, I mean, I became vegan in 1972. I'd been a vegetarian about 2.5 years earlier. In those days, a lot of people went vegetarian first. These days, a lot of people go straight to being vegan because it's kind of so much easier now to live as a vegan. It was through, I was already a vegetarian. It was through picking up a copy of the Vegetarian Society's magazine in a health food shop. And there was an article in there about veganism. and along with lots of other things, something like vivisection, the fur trade, hunting, all that. And I was horrified. I didn't know about any of these things, and I got in touch with the Vegan Society. I became vegan probably within a couple of weeks. In other words, I switched my diet to a vegan diet within a couple of weeks, and very quickly got involved with hunt saboteurs. And because for me, I didn't see immediately as soon as I became vegan, it was never enough for me just to be vegan myself. I kind of realised straight away that was no good. It's no good me just being vegan while almost the whole of the rest of the world isn't vegan, because that isn't going to do too much good for the other animals. So I kind of immediately wanted to do more than just be a non-consumer of animal products. And so I kind of got involved with Hunt Sabs because they were the most activist group, and I was young. I wanted to do active stuff, and it carried on from there. But it was kind of, in those days, it was a lot more difficult to live as a vegan because, for a start, the products in the early 70s, certainly in the UK. Manufacturers of food products weren't required to put the ingredients on the packaging. So you had to more or less guess what was in things. And it was particularly difficult with stuff like bread, because in those days, most bread contained animal fat. And so you had to know, I mean, we got to know which brands of bread were okay to buy, and they weren't all that common. It was even kind of difficult to buy bread that didn't contain animal products. And another thing we thought was okay was peanut butter. In those days, there was only one brand of peanut butter. I think it was Sunpat. And of course, we all fell on this. Oh, this is a good source of protein. This is just peanuts, more or less. And then one of our kind of group, he wrote away to the company. He wrote away, because no emails or internet in those days. He wrote a letter to Sunpat asking what was in their peanut butter, and we were sat around having a meeting. He walked in. He said, "I've got some terrible news." He said, "I've had a letter back from Sunpat. There's beef fat in the peanut butter." And like, we wanted to kill him. We went, "You bastard! Why did you write away? And we can't eat it. We can't eat the stuff now, and so we couldn't even eat the peanut butter, that we'd been eating for."
What a bizarre idea, though, eh? What a bizarre idea to put beef fat into peanut butter. Ridiculous.
What it was that almost everything these days that contains vegetable oil, in those days, it was beef fat. I mean, sometimes it was some type of other animal fat, perhaps pork fat and stuff like that, but it was animal fat. And then gradually over time, that got replaced by vegetable oil. But that was...
Rodney, Oh, sorry, go on, carry on.
Yeah, no, you carry on. That's okay.
I've got a question for you. So when in your early days with the SABs and you'd gone vegan and everything, was everyone who was doing activism then, were they coming in as kind of non-vegans and then going vegan, or were you doing a lot of activism with non-vegan activists? What was the kind of landscape there at that time in terms of veganism and activism?
Well, there was no vegan activism like there is today. I mean, what happened was that there'd been no kind of campaigning for veganism in the movement before that. I mean, the Vegan Society didn't really, it was more like a kind of support group really for existing vegans. It wasn't that much of a campaigning organisation. And so what happened was people were campaigning on all sorts of other issues, and by and large those people weren't vegan, campaigning against animal experiments, the Hunt Sabs, people against the fur trade, etc. And by and large, those people weren't vegan. But as veganism kind of began to increase in the 1970s, and what would happen was people that got involved in these various campaigns rubbed shoulders with vegans who were already involved, and that kind of persuaded the non-vegans to go vegan. And certainly that was my experience. I was involved in running a Hunt Sab group in North London, and the two or three of us that kind of ran the group, we were vegan, And when people joined, invariably they weren't vegan. Some of them were really anti-vegan, said, "Oh, I'm not interested in that. I just want to save the fox. I love my meat," and all that kind of stuff. And but most of those people within just a few weeks went vegan because we explained to them why we were vegan, and they took it on board. And so we turned a lot of people vegan through just getting involved in our group. And we tried to be nice to them. I mean, there was one night when a lot of drink flowed, and there was this guy that staunchly refused to go vegan. So what we did was we tied him up in a sleeping bag, locked him in a cupboard, and said, "Right, you stay there until you promise to go vegan." And after about 20 minutes, there was this kind of banging on the door, and he said, "Let me out. I promised to go vegan." So we let him out.
Well, just
why don't we try this? What's going on?
So it's a good way. I mean, like, people get outraged. What they need to do is be out on the streets with a sleeping bag and a cupboard to promote veganism. Really, lock people in there like for 20 minutes. But I lost contact with him, quite a while back. But I was still in contact with him probably about 15, 20 years later, and he was still vegan. So he stayed.
I thought you were going to say he's still in the sleeping bag.
Yeah, he's still in the sleeping bag. That might be the reason he's not able to eat animal products. He's in the sleeping bag.
One thing that you might not know, Ronnie, is that we're doing a new thing. We're actually streaming to TikTok as well as to my YouTube. And so one of the things that vegans get on TikTok all the time is they're forcing people to become vegan, and we always say, well, how do we do that? But now we know how now, right?
No, of course. The sleeping bag. Yeah, I'll give a warning to people on TikTok. Anyone not vegan on TikTok, I'll be round your house with a sleeping bag in the cupboard. Go vegan now. Save yourself a load of aggro. Be honest.
Ronnie, do you think that because on a practical level, it was more difficult back then to eat plant-based, people were put off by veganism? Or if you knew why you should be vegan, you knew it and that was it, and it doesn't matter if you have all the products of the world or not, because now we have all these products and there is so much talk about these products, too much talk about this product, and I feel that people sometimes use it as an excuse.
Oh no, I agree with you, because however difficult it is to live as a vegan, to consume a vegan diet, it's a million times more difficult, or even more than that, more difficult for the animals that suffer and are slaughtered, because we're not vegan, isn't it? No matter how difficult it is, we weren't going to die. It was difficult to find stuff. It was very, very difficult to eat out anywhere, because it was the same problem that invariably, places would cook it using animal products. There's animal products in almost everything. I remember I'd go for works, place I worked in the solicitor's office at the time, and we'd go out for works meal. I had to walk out because I said, "What have you got for me?" And there wasn't anything. So I said, "Bye. I'm not going to sit here not eating anything while you chomp into your carcasses." So I had to kind of not take part in the meals that were going on, and so that was a problem. It was which is like, I mean, there's so many vegan options everywhere today. So, but I think where people cared enough, we were determined. We would, no matter how difficult it was to get the products and how difficult it was to kind of eat, to eat out, we were determined to not to consume animal products, and also determined to campaign, on these various issues. Although at the time no one really campaigned for veganism, and that came much later. So that's the thing. That's what comes first. You see, with veganism, it isn't really the food or the diet that comes first. What comes first is a philosophy. What comes first is the belief in animal liberation, and the desire for animal liberation, and the desire not to be involved in the oppression and exploitation of other animals. And I think once people accept that speciesism and human supremacism is wrong, and they become determined to try to live according to that as best they can, that is the time when a person becomes vegan. You know, it's a philosophy. It's not a diet. It's not a lifestyle. It's actually a philosophy, and the diet and the lifestyle are kind of part of that philosophy. And that's kind of how I always looked at it, really. But people seem to get it the wrong way round, and people don't really understand that. And I don't think they understand. A lot of people that call themselves vegan are really just plant eaters rather than actual vegans.
Yeah, it is a confusion in the modern movement, isn't it?
There's a funny comment from Michael, by the way, at 6:34, Roger. I don't know if you spotted that one.
6:34. Hang on. Try and find it. It's gone. Oh, blimey, it's a good way away.
A good way away. And I just thought it was quite amusing. I thought it would make Ronnie laugh.
I can't find it. Oh, there.
Really?
That's a normal problem, isn't it, Roger? With you?
According to the bro science, if Ronnie's been vegan since 1972, you can only survive for 5 years, of course, as we know. Ronnie's been since 1977.
Well, I can confirm that.
Yeah.
I can confirm that.
I'm dead. Yeah, you don't want to come too close to me. You know, it's not a pleasant experience. Not a pleasant nasal experience.
Never have. No, Ronnie. No. This part of the show. This part of the show is the bit that I've been really looking forward to. I've been dreaming about this part of the show because this is the time when I boot you out.
Oh my God.
Let me just say this. I hope that everyone has been doing something for World Vegan Day. In some way. I mean, this morning I was out. This morning we've got a compassionate Christmas campaign locally. We're trying to persuade everyone in the area to go vegan for Christmas and thereafter and stay vegan. And I was out delivering leaflets with another person from our group. We delivered hundreds of leaflets to people's letterboxes this morning, and that was our contribution to World Vegan Day. And it's very important that we do our utmost to spread the message. I mean, the problem in the old days, and very, very quickly before I go, one of the differences in the old days was from now was that almost all vegans were actually activists. They may not have been activists in promoting veganism, but they're certainly activists in terms of campaigning against various areas where animals were oppressed. And now we've got vegan activism, we've got vegan outreach, which is absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant that that's come about. But very sadly, so few vegans or people who call themselves vegans are involved in that. And if we want to change things, we have to have more vegans becoming active, and we've got to have more vegans organising outreach activity in their local areas. And if we, and that's the way we really change things. And I'd urge everyone listening to that to kind of, to get active and to get organising. So that's it. You can kick me out now.
Ronnie, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Ronnie.
It's been a
pleasure. I hope your
pleasure.
little cat is going to be better. I hope.
Yeah, she's got like a kind of chronic gastric problem, and she has to have a special diet and tablets that I'm the one that kind of does it, and she can't eat the other cat's food, although she desperately wants to.
Yeah.
So she has to be kept separate, and it's a bit complicated. So I kind of
you don't have to tell me about that. I hear you preaching to the choir.
But anyway,
like a military operation in this house.
Everyone enjoy World Vegan Evening or whatever the time is in your part of the world, and hopefully I'll see everyone again on another one of these shows.
Well, there's a nice one to finish with. So Corey is saying that she's written a chapter on the changing meaning of veganism and included your version of it. So that's nice.
Oh, that's great. Brilliant. That's great, Corey.
And Ronnie, really, you're a hero to us all. I wasn't going to say that when you were online because I didn't want to embarrass you, like as if I could. And so you just take care. And Nella and Wendy, I knew you'd find a way of going over, didn't you? Yeah,
yeah, I'm not too bad. I've gone over far more than this before.
Yeah,
in more ways than one.
Yeah, are you talking about shows now or something else?
No, not me kind of staying upright. No.
Right. Well,
Thanks so
Anyway,
much, Ronnie.
I've got
There we
my
go.
cursor hanging over the remove button. So
see my T-shirt again. There we go.
See you, Ronnie.
See you. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey, I think the power of this might go to my head a little bit here. So
Eject. Oh,
Yeah.
just sent me bulb off again. Don't do that, Wayne. God, flipping bulb.
So,
Sorry.
right.
Our-
So
next guest from the other side of the Atlantic.
indeed, over
We're
the
very
pond.
international.
I
Over
love
the
this
pond.
show. All these amazing people. Oh, I'm just in my element with these people.
So do we have a camera?
Do you have a camera?
Oh, Deb. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but we
Yeah,
cannot
that's
see
it.
you.
Can't see me. Let's see how I can fix this.
I think we had this before, I think, when you came on the show and you ended up using your cousin's laptop or something. Do you remember, Deb?
Well, do we want to just go for audio then, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
Oops, something happened.
Oh.
Oh no, she must have cut herself off by mistake.
Oh, blimey. Okay. This
Let's look at
this
the comments.
this technology is good. Yeah, we've not been keeping with the comments at all.
I know, there's some brilliant comments and it's really hard to keep up tonight.
So people on TikTok, Ronnie Lee, who's just gone, been vegan since 1972. So that's an interesting stat in the sense that a lot of people suggest that it can't be done for so long, but he's one of the real kind of pioneers of the movement in a sense that we're all still pioneers, really, in a sense. But yeah, Debbie's saying not connected now. So
Oh.
we do have Bernie on the line. Do you want to switch, or do we wait, or what?
Let's switch. So we can give some time to Debbie to resolve the problem without feeling stressed about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So look who we have
Bernie!
here.
Hello, Bernie.
Hey, Bernie.
I'm just asleep here. Me and Woody and the greyhounds on the floor.
Oh, how many have you got now, Bernie?
I've only 3. I lost one a few weeks ago, but
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Or if I've anything to do with it, you know. But, I've always had greyhounds going back years.
Usually they're just such a lovely. They have such a lovely temperament, don't they?
And yeah, they're no bother, as Roger knows, because Roger minds them if I go anywhere.
He's a dog sitter. So, Bernie, how are you? What have you been up
I'm not
to?
too bad. Yeah, I'm doing okay. So I guess I'm the only Irish person here. Well, if you don't count Roger, we gave him.
Nobody counts Roger. Don't worry.
I've got Irish blood, Irish and Scottish blood. I'm a McGovern.
Right. As long as it's still where it should be.
It's in a jar in the corner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Stop, Roger. God. You can't let him out at all. He makes to show himself. So, Roger, what do you want to know? You brought me on here. Don't have me sitting here.
Yes. Okay. Linda says they're Irish. Jennifer's in the chat, so another Irish person. So there you go. Jennifer's also monitoring TikTok. So you're on TikTok as well as live on StreamYard, Bernie. So we want to talk about the changing landscape of veganism in Ireland. So it's suggested that veganism was kind of a little bit slow to arrive in Ireland, but it's
hold
not
on, somebody is joining in here. Just Woody. Okay. Go ahead.
Hey, Woody.
I'll tell you what, just 2 seconds, I'll let him out. Do you want to go out? There he is. Say hello. Did you see him? No.
Woody.
What is that? What's that? A dog fart? Was it?
What? No, let him out. Luke, good boy. Come on. He's had enough.
Oh, Linda's going.
Sorry about
She's got
that,
to go and
yeah.
pick up the wee vegan from
So
the
I have to
drama
go
club.
back into
Bye,
the
Linda.
archives to the 80s when I went vegan. So I'll just get into it, just explain how I got into it. It really started, well, I always cared about animals. I knew there was some connection that I had with animals that was relevant, but I was also brought up in a very Dublin household. My mother worked in butchers, and also being in the city centre, I lived beside a pig slaughterhouse, which horrified me. And even when I was really young, I used to think when they got off the truck and escaped, they were free when they got to the end of the road. Of course, that wasn't the case. But that was how, I suppose, I noticed animals first, you know. Should I keep talking, Roger, or are you all
Well,
right?
I'm not going to try and stop you. I've never been able to.
Okay.
So, Tara.
You haven't tried yet. So I went into town one day and I met a stall in town in the centre of Dublin, and it was an animal rights table. And it turned out to be the Alliance for Animal Rights, who had just basically been formed about 2 weeks before that. So I knew when I found it, this is what I was looking for. Other people that sort of felt like I did. And at the time, we did demonstrations on Irish ferries about the exports and things like that, mainly, not veganism. But there was one or two people who were vegan. So, of course, I picked up on it immediately and said, right, count on 3, you know, so am I. So that's where it all started. It was quite simple. It was just that I met other people that were vegan and realized I had made some efforts, but didn't know anybody else. So that made the difference, having a few people like-minded, you know.
Can you remember if people knew the name or the word back then, Bernie? Do you think?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. We weren't
Yeah.
that backward in Ireland, Roger. We were quite
No,
smart.
I'm not suggesting. I'm not suggesting that. It's just a common claim that people. Well, first of all, a lot of people say, "I went vegan before I knew what veganism was," and a lot of people say that people can't, don't understand the idea of veganism and can't even pronounce it half the time. So,
well, I'm talking about, I suppose, 85, 87. I don't know exactly. Around that time when I made some efforts, you know. So it was 89 when I met the people in town, and we went from there. So we had some good times, and a lot of people didn't know about veganism. It surprised us. They came up, and there was actually, I think I told you about the twins before. There was 2 men came up. It's a short story, and one of them emigrated to Canada or somewhere, and one stayed here. And when they met up again after all the years, they didn't sort of stay in touch. But when they did, they discovered that both of them had gone vegetarian. I know we're talking only vegetarian, but they weren't even on the same continents. And the 2 of them made the same steps, and eventually did get vegan. But at the time, they had gone to vegetarianism, even though they weren't in touch with each other. And one didn't know about the other. So I just said, it's something inside you. We've always said that. It's something in you that you feel. And if it's not there, you probably can't put it in. I don't know. But it needs a bit of influence anyway if you haven't got it. So
apparently, News Talk talked about veganism today, Bernie. That's quite good. Somebody before was saying that they were tuning into radio in Britain, but there was no mention of World Vegan Day. But looks like news. We'll have to try and find the podcast for that, won't we?
Well, we're vegan every day, so it doesn't really make a lot of difference. And I mean, most people that went vegan are still vegan. I don't know any that have dropped out, which is good, you know.
Bernie, do you think have you noticed a massive shift from when you went vegan in the 80s to now? And do you think there's been like a big change, like even in the last 4 or 5 years? Have you noticed there's been almost like an acceleration in the last 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, that's without a doubt. Yeah, with all the products, every supermarket has a range of products, not just other people's products, a range of their own vegan products, plant-based products. So I mean, all we had back then was Sosmix. You're all probably too young to remember.
No, I remember Sosmix.
You remember Sosmix, yeah.
Yeah.
mix it with water, and we have a burger.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
But it was good fun, and again, I was in the Sabs at the time, so all the Sabs used to go out with the bags of crisps. There was crisps that were vegan, thankfully, but that was the sort of staple diet of going out for the day with your horns, and your scents, and your sprays. You'd have your crisps as well. So I mean, it's all still going. I run a fair now. I have for the last few years. So I mean, this the group I joined. I ended up sort of taking over, and our main campaign is the Shelburne campaign about greyhounds. We've been doing this for we're in the third year now of campaigning every week at Shelburne Park in the greyhound track. They brought us to the High Court. We won outright. They tried to take our houses. They tried to get money off us. This is the Greyhound Board in Ireland, but we stood up to them and we won. So we're back. We were back 2 days later at Shelburne Park, so I didn't really interrupt anything. We tried everything, but we're still there. So and thankfully, I was telling Roger, a lot of you met them the other night. We were down at the track. An awful lot of the people are vegan now. That
Yes,
didn't even
indeed,
be
yeah.
vegan
That's
before
right.
joining us to campaign for the greyhounds.
Yeah,
But
it's
now
the old thing about activists first and then vegan, rather than the other way around, which is interesting.
yeah.
Can you see the screen there, Bernie? Somebody mentioned that Tom Reagan's appearance on the Late Late Show was memorable. Now, you were intimately involved there. First of all, you were in the audience, but also you brought Tom over, and you were a good friend of his, weren't you?
Yeah. Tom was
And
over
of course
a few times.
Nancy, who sadly has died recently.
Yeah, Tom brought us actually over to his home in Raleigh. We stayed there, and it was sort of three of us, I think, went over. And then Tom came over to us a few times and stayed here. Mad time, paid it forward, doing the dishes, doing this. He was a mad character, you know. And Nancy too. Sadly, Nancy went this year, so we won't see either of them again. You know, it's very sad. You know, I've great photographs taken. We brought him out to the coast, and we had a great
Yeah,
time.
well, we do fancy a bit of an exclusive. So can you reach that picture of Tom on the?
Oh, Tom on the wall. Hold on, Tom is on the wall. Hold on. I think it's behind the computer. This is a madhouse.
I guarantee you that no
Can
one would have
you
seen this picture. It's really great.
Can you see this? No, hold on.
Yeah, just twist it a little bit.
I tried to.
Yeah, so this
I
is
know
Tom.
it's the opposite way. It's the opposite way around to what you think, Bernie. So if you think you're going right, you have to go left.
way.
You have to mirror. You have to do the other way. Other way. That's it.
Follow my finger.
He's on there.
Yay! On the roller coaster.
Everything.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know what. There's not much. I don't know much written on it. Let's see.
That was a Christmas card to Bernie, wasn't it?
Season's greetings, Nancy and Tom. All the best. And Nancy is holding her ears here. Sorry, I'd say it was a bumpy ride. But oh no, Tom always stayed in touch. He loved it here. He'd come over and play golf. He used to go out with my husband and play golf, and that. So we used to have a good time with him. So he used to go out to the seal sanctuary, and he had set things he did. And one thing he was delighted with, he went in a train one day, just a normal train. And on the train, there was a whole load of women, and they spotted him from the Late Late Show the night before. They all started to say, "There's that man that was on the Late Late Show." So we had them all sitting around him on the train, and he gave him like a little talk. So he thought it was great because it was small. He could get on a train, and they could say, "Oh, that's the fella that was on the telly," you know. Probably wouldn't happen in America. But I don't know. He was a great character, you know. It was great to have met him, but we got him on the Late Late. Was it twice, Roger?
Was, yeah, twice. Oh
Yeah,
no, hang on a
on
minute.
Late
No,
Late.
I think it was once on the actual TV thing, but that Tom came twice because he was part of a kind of conference, wasn't he, with Steve Best and people like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I did I made an animal rights conference back in, what was it, 99?
Yeah, because the Late Late thing was 2000 or 2001. I always get those two mixed up. But I think there was something earlier than that as well.
Yeah, that was when a lot of them came over. Steve Best.
That's when we first met, I think, wasn't it, Bernie? That's when we first met, I think.
Yes, I remember Roger in the audience. So this man in the audience, who turned out to be Roger, was asking questions. Well, I said, "Who's that?" And they said, "I don't know." So I said, "Well, he seems to know what he's talking about." That was the first thing I said about you, Roger.
Yeah, where's all that gone? Where's all that
Who's
gone?
that down there?
What happened?
I said it was Roger. I knew because I knew the name. You knew your name. Your name preceded you. So we're friends ever since. That was what, 1999?
Yeah, Jeremy the Ape is saying Reagan and Best would be an interesting discussion. They actually had a bit of an argument because it turned to the issue of violence. And Tom and Best obviously wrote about violence, but they came to a different conclusion about its practicality. So I do remember they had a bit of an argument there. So
We got on okay that time anyway.
oh yeah,
We had them all together. It was a big melting pot of animal rights activists, you know. I'll have to do it again.
yeah. You've got
Next
another
year,
one
maybe.
planned, haven't you? Because there was another one in that hotel when you had Kieran there and Jerry Vlasic. That was the
Yeah.
last one you did, wasn't it? That was a good
Yeah.
good while ago now, though.
Yeah, we went out on night trips with Jerry and his wife with coats that turned inside out with a different color while we ran away. But anyway, that was a good night too. A lot went on. We need to get back to it and have a bit of fun.
Bernie, you need to write a book, some memoirs.
I haven't time to write a book. I do Shelburne Park every Saturday night and then all the stuff in between. So by the time Saturday comes to get into Shelburne with a van full of placards that never comes out of the car. They're permanently in the car for Shelburne.
You could get Woody to be your scribe, Bernie.
Oh, definitely, paw prints. Yeah.
Well,
We try and make the best of it, you know. Good memories, no bad memories really of animal rights. Well, a few times people were beaten up and stuff like that. But I seemed to escape. I remember jumping on somebody's back one day to get him off somebody else, but that was as bad as it got, really.
Oh, that's it. Keep it light. Keep it light.
So anyway, that's it. That's veganism, but it's still going on. There's vegans everywhere now.
They're all over the place. You can't get rid of
They're
them.
all over.
Yeah, we're overrun. Yeah, Irish vegans.
I wish. Still not enough, right? Never enough.
Yeah.
Hey, Bernie, thanks so much for being part of the show and the celebration, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, Bernie, thank you. Roger's loving his role, ejecting everyone out of the show today, Bernie. So no, thank you so much for coming on. It's so brilliant to hear the stories.
Well, maybe I'll
the old
see
stories
you
and
sometime. If we do something, maybe you'll come over.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Do a conference or something, yeah.
Brilliant.
This year, next year, after Christmas, yeah. When the COVID is
next
gone,
year.
You know, that's another thing causing a lot of hassle too. People that didn't get vaccinated were treated like aliens, you know. Like if you go to a restaurant, you had to sit outside. Can't go inside and all this sort of thing. But anyway, I've survived till now. So hopefully it'll fade away soon. Yeah. Will I go, Roger?
You're not going to have very much choice in a minute, but yes.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks very much, Bernie.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye, Bernie.
Take care.
Bye.
And we have our next guest.
Hello, Ayana.
Ayana, how are you?
Welcome.
Welcome. Is Ayana frozen? Can you hear us, Ayana?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
There you go. Welcome back.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to see
Thanks for having
you.
me. You too.
Roger is like a Bond villain. Yeah, Roger's enjoying ejecting everyone.
Yeah, it's great. We ought to do this more often.
Look at that. So, I really wanted to get your perspective because something that struck me when you were on the show before and you were chatting is that you'd said you you were done with vegan because you didn't identify as vegan anymore. And I'm really interested to get your perspective, and because we've been hearing from like Ronnie and Bernie about like the earlier days of veganism, and I'd love to get your perspectives of how you see veganism now, and maybe not having been vegan quite, you know, as long and kind of thing, to get your different perspectives. So what would you like to share?
Well, I'd like to share that I still identify with the term vegan, but I prefer the term anti-speciesist, was mostly I think what I was trying to say. And my opinion on veganism is that it is a philosophy, and it has its roots in direct action and many brilliant things, but a lot about it has become mainstream and diet focused and unhelpful to the liberation of animals. Whereas anti-speciesism, for me, more directly speaks to the politics and understanding of the politics of non-human oppression, and also how that ties into all other kinds of oppression.
Yeah, so you're kind of seeing it as a much broader kind of picture, I suppose, in terms of like consistent anti-oppression. Yeah. Oh, sorry, was that Deb messaging? Yeah, sorry, I've got messages coming through left, right, and centre. So if you, I don't know if you, we were talking about back, it was say when Ronnie went vegan around 1972. Roger's been vegan about 43 years now, Roger, something like that? For me, it was the 90s. 42 years. Sorry about the light, by the way. I know my light's going on and off all the time. Nella, I'm not sure how long. It's a few years now for you, Nella, isn't it?
8 years, almost 8 years.
8 years. And I'm just wondering, like, how you. So when you turned vegan, Ayana, how did you sort of experience veganism? What was your experience of it in this kind of more in more recent times of being vegan? Like, did you have an understanding of it before you went vegan? What was your awareness of it? What's your perception of, like, when we talk about the more kind of previous days when you didn't have alternatives and you were kind of no, so go ahead.
There's a bit of lag. Yeah, I was aware of veganism before I went vegan, and I wanted to be vegan because I had an understanding of the fact that I cared and respected other animals. And I went vegan when I was 11, and started being involved in activism 2 weeks later. And the way that I was introduced to vegan and activism was mostly through the mainstream animal rights movement. So that I guess has formed a lot of my opinion on what veganism means. And I think what veganism will represent to a lot of people nowadays, like the more general understanding of veganism is something that is learned from mainstream veganism, which is not great, to put it simply. But I can understand, like, for many people who have been vegan much longer, it feels different, and I respect and understand that.
What was your experience from what you're kind of terming the mainstream movement?
That it was performative and capitalist and not truly engaged in animal liberation, mostly engaged in just pumping up the individual humans. And it's quite an egoistic environment and culture, as well as one that is oppressive in many ways, that aren't just towards animals, but also racist and misogynistic and transphobic and so on. I also wanted to, while I was on here, take the time to acknowledge, like, World Vegan Day and it's like how it started. As far as I'm aware, it was started by the Vegan Society. And I want to acknowledge that I don't support the Vegan Society because they are quite racist in the way that they've been. And I know people who have resigned from the Vegan Society due to racism and anti-queerness and other oppressive behavior. And I didn't experience it myself, so I prefer to just direct people to like research that themselves. But I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we said, because we said it at the beginning, I don't know if we said this at the beginning, we wanted to make this a celebration of the death of veganism. Just of, and I know it started because it was the celebration of the anniversary of the founding of the Vegan Society, but we're kind of separating out this celebration away from like internal politics of Vegan Society as well. So we just to acknowledge that with you as well, in solidarity with you, Ayana. So
great.
Ayana, you mentioned in the chat that you're appearing tonight at BBC at 9 o'clock. Is that true? Is that correct?
Yeah. So, first of all, shout out to Kieran for putting that in the comments. Thanks. It's completely unrelated to veganism or animal rights or this conversation. I'm also an actor, so I'm going to be on BBC tonight.
With that capacity. Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, do you feel that the larger part of the people that identify as vegans really engage with the idea of oppression, or do you feel that sometimes we approach it superficially, as in who don't want to kill animals, who don't want to hurt animals, let's go for abolition, and that's all, without a deeper understanding of how oppressions work and of the fact that it's unfair and it is counterproductive to support someone who may be sexist but is a vegan.
Yeah, I there was a lot there that you said. It was really interesting to pick up on there. I definitely agree that it's counterproductive and ridiculous and harmful to support people who may be in other ways. Obviously, as humans in the world, we can't actually escape oppression, and especially as people living in Europe and living in the West, we are contributing to oppression daily. But if somebody has the opportunity to not be engaged in oppression, and they are choosing to do that knowingly, or even unknowingly, then that is unacceptable. And I don't think that we should be supporting that and calling ourselves people who are for the liberation of animals, because animals are humans and humans are animals, and it's all connected. So I do agree with that, yeah. And I do agree also that maybe I'm interpreting what you said wrong, but that a lot of things around veganism are superficial. I think a lot of people understand veganism through a very superficial and simplistic lens, when it's really not simple at all. It's quite complicated and complex. And I don't think as humans we can really understand the depth of speciesism in its entirety. And I think it's essential to understand it, again, in the context of all oppressions, and to legitimize it, like not in accepting speciesism, but legitimize it as a full oppression that is systemic, that is interpersonal, that is internalized, that is individual, and doesn't just exist in the simple world of I don't want to kill animals. Because although that is obviously a good thing to want, just to make that clear.
Well, thanks for the clarification on that one. Now we do have Debbie back, and I wonder whether we might be able to conflate a couple of things, in the sense that Debbie's here to answer the question: is veganism the same as animal rights? So I wonder whether you both could tackle that question, perhaps.
Yeah, great idea. Deb.
Hello.
You're back.
Finally.
You're back, Deb.
You have to be smarter
Debbie,
than the
Ayana.
equipment. So
I think it's
Oh.
enough.
Can
Is
you hear
Deb
me?
frozen? Seems like there's a really big delay on your line, I think, Deb, from what I can see.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there is a big delay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Not really, no, I'm afraid, no.
Deb's got a big delay.
Now can you hear
It's
me?
going so smoothly. We hear you, but about half a minute later than when you've said it, Deb. I think.
Great.
Not great.
I think I remember
Now
having
can you
this
hear me?
before, didn't we? We did. I remember having this before.
I think Deb went to a different house for the last one, but
I think she did.
Yeah.
Different house. Wow.
it's not going to work for us. It's not going to work for us. Diana, so veganism and animal rights, do you think they're the same thing?
I think it depends on the context, and I think that's what I'm trying to say with my opinion on the word veganism or vegan. It does depend on the context. A lot of the time, veganism.
Oh no, we've got a second guest for
Oh no.
Yeah. What's going on?
It was all going so well. Oh, Deb's disappeared.
Interpret it in the.
Ayana's right. Ayana, you froze for a little while on us there, so we didn't. I don't know if you were carried on talking, but we didn't catch what you just said.
Okay.
Sorry.
What was I just saying?
I don't know.
That's my line on this show. What was I on about?
It's different in different contexts.
Yeah.
Oh no, slow down again.
I mean, the only thing I would say on this question is the fact that Leslie Cross was the person who really clarified that. He did talk about rights, but he did talk about it in kind of giving rights to other animals. But he talked mainly about animal liberation, the thing that Ronnie always focuses on. And he actually did say at one point, we're not so much welfare but liberation. And he also said that we're in cahoots with the liberators. You know, so he's very much kind of moving the philosophy that way anyway, and so that was all part and parcel of this evolution of philosophy. And I think somebody mentioned the 1951 definition, so 51 through to 55 is when it all got sorted out, really.
Yeah, that's really interesting to know the history of that. I think also as an individual, the way I tend to approach things is I just let go when they no longer feel really useful to me. Like I think I'm quite fluid in the way that I approach politics, and I like the idea that I will change and grow and approach things differently. And like even from where I was when I was 11 to now when I'm 15, the change has been incredible. I've grown so much in the way that I see the world. So.
You do realize that you make me feel so old when you say that. When I was 11 and now I'm 15.
If it helps, I'm 16 next month. So.
Oh, well, that really helps.
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what have I got to worry about now? Yeah, okay.
Take it away all your problems.
But I love that attitude, though. I love that that kind of mindset of this is not who I am, fixed identity. I'm a vegan or I'm an anti-speciesist, and that's it. It's like that kind of mindset to allow yourself to be curious and to grow and to learn and evolve. And I think that we all have to have that, don't we? We all have to have that openness to learning and being curious and listening to other people and listening to more evidence that comes out, like Corey and team doing so much research in terms of what's effective with activism, you know, having that evidence and scientifically backed strategies, and then also theory that's coming out for consistent anti-oppression. That's been a real learning curve for many of us. And just, being open and not just fixing yourself and putting yourself in a box and saying, well, I'm a vegan and this is who I am and what I do and this is it. I think we have to be open to that evolution, don't we? I love that.
Yeah. That's how we grow as a species.
There's a controversial idea. Look at that.
Oh my.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Can't see that happening, can you? But we'll see. Right. So, Debbie, can we try you once more? Are you in sync with us now? Do you think?
I hope so.
Oh,
Deb.
success.
Is it working?
No, it's just as bad,
no.
I'm afraid. And
You're
apologies for some reason. I've got a thing about this. I always call you Debbie. I'm really sorry about that. So, well,
I forgive you.
and you're gonna have to forgive me for booting you out now as well, because unfortunately we're out of time. I'm afraid, Deb.
No. We're gonna have to get Deb back on the show on her.
Yeah,
on her
we
own.
will. Yeah.
We'll get Deb. We'll get you back on when you've got a better connection, so we can speak to you properly about this.
Yeah, you're to move to
I'll have to
a
figure
more
out how to
advanced
do this.
country. That's what you need to do.
And Ayana, thank you so much for coming on as well. It's always really great to get your perspectives, and I love your attitude and your mindset and the way you frame things as well. It's always really, really great. And just heads up for anyone who wants to hear more from Ayana. Ayana's going to be coming on the Thrive Vegan Well podcast very soon. We're going to do an episode together, aren't we, Ayana? So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'll let everyone know when that comes out.
Blatant advertising.
Yep.
Oh, that's good advertising.
Also, just a little notice. Hopefully, my book's coming out this year.
Yay.
Oh,
Excellent.
did you finalize an agreement with
Frozen again. So you probably didn't hear.
Sorry. I remember when you were in the show, we were talking about it, and you mentioned that you didn't want to go through a traditional publishing house. So how is this going for you?
It's going
Successful
through anarchist publishers, so they'll be helping me print it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, let us know when that's out, Ayana, and we'll mention it when it comes out. Brilliant. Deb, so sorry it didn't happen. I'd probably choose Roger to live over an ant, but that doesn't really say anything because there's a lot of people where I choose the ant. I don't know what's been going on in the chat. I'm really out of the loop on the chat, but that sounds a really interesting conversation.
I probably live over several ants. What are you talking about? And a couple of rats. Right, we're gonna have to move on, I'm afraid, folks. So, Deb, I'm really sorry that it didn't work out for you, and Ayana, thanks as ever for your contribution. But we got to move on. This is we knew this bit was going to be difficult because we're just not good at it, you know. So
yeah, we don't like saying goodbye. But Ayana, is that your mum?
It's me.
Thank you.
Hey.
Tell you that I'm good.
Oh, I've just missed the end of what Ayana
Thanks
said.
for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We missed the end of what you said about your mum then, Ayana, but it's great to have you, and we'll see you soon. We got some... Oh!
Look who's here!
Look who's here!
oh, no.
Familiar faces. Hello, Tom.
Hello!
Welcome back.
How are you?
Oh, thank you.
Like the old days. Oh, hey,
Jeremy.
man.
It seems like Roger's unsure whether or not he wants to add me to the show. Hello, everyone.
Welcome both. How you doing?
Doing good. We're celebrating a nice crisp fall here in Indiana, which is definitely an adjustment for us.
Hey, Brad.
Hello,
I was
Brad.
wondering if you were going to invite me back on or what. I thought those two are on.
It's the
We
beard.
have a full house.
Actually, now that the beard's here, I can announce that I'm going to do this Movember thing for Back into Daylight Animal Sanctuary. So you'll be able to see a mustache. I've never had a mustache. A mustache will grow just below my nose. The next month is coming.
We're expecting daily updates.
So, Jeremy, you were saying it's crisp fall in Indiana. You're in Indiana now. You left the UK, didn't you, since you were last on the show?
Yeah, we've been here for, I guess, a month and a half now. And yeah, it's been a bit of a transition, still is. But yeah, just getting settled in a new country, which I've done a few times before. But every time it takes me a few years and I forget about how much time it takes and energy. And I'm like, yeah, I'll move again. And then I'm like, oh, why did I do this?
Never again.
Today was your first outreach attempt, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I'm at... Yeah,
go ahead.
We're at a move to, actually, it's the university I went to school at, actually, and I need to look up the numbers exactly, but it's somewhere between 30 to 40,000 students on campus. So it's a really unique opportunity, and at least from what I've seen, there doesn't seem to be other outreach happening at the moment. I don't know if that's due to the pandemic. So yesterday I just wheeled up a little cart I got with a table and set up for a couple hours, and really positive response, because I think anytime we do outreach, we're not really sure what we're going to get ourselves into, but it's not like Speaker's Corner Tom and I went to a few weeks ago or a couple months ago. That was a bit of a different environment, but yeah, it's been really good.
Oh, amazing. We wanted to talk to you folks about particularly, like, in fact, we just kind of started to talk about it with Ayana, that kind of that personal evolution as a vegan. And I just wonder if you've got anything you want to share on that, or what's your experience been from when you first started to live vegan to now? Has there been any big shifts, any sort of learning and growth within that?
Yeah,
go Tom, you go.
Okay. I would say, yeah, I mean, I guess there's always I think for me, like when I first became vegan, I felt that because I became quite impassioned about the injustice of it all, and I didn't read enough and probably learn enough from other kind of key perspectives in the movement. I still don't know enough anyway, to be honest. There's still there's a rich history, obviously, of animal advocates, and I know Dr. Corey Wren has done some good work on that as well in terms of uncovering that. But I'd say for me, it's in the last couple of years where I was able to take the time to just kind of read some more books, learn from people like Roger. And then that you develop, I guess, more of a critical eye. I found more of a critical eye of assessing what's effective in terms of advocacy and what kind of feels right for me in terms of what I'm doing, because I kind of jumped in and thought that everything was okay. If everything's vegan related or kind of pro-animal abolition in some way, then it's all fine. But I think from my evolution is from learning more about things, and then kind of enables me to kind of work out what I think is more effective, what I think is most aligned with abolition, and yeah, that's how I've evolved. But I'd say so that's I probably haven't read as much in the last year as I did in the last couple 2 years beyond that, but I will continue to keep reading, obviously, keep learning.
So, Tom, if I can put you on the spot, since you've done all this contemplation, what is the most effective? What's the smartest one for all?
Yeah, come on, Tom. What's the golden nugget?
Well, in my view, I think it just comes down to being really clear about what the goals of veganism are, and animal liberation, ending animal use, and trying to cut through, you probably all know, cutting through welfareism, cutting through anything that's going to feed into what the kind of populist opinions are about veganism, which is inevitably wrong or misleading. Yeah, so I think that can cover a wide range of different types of activism and type of advocacy, not just a typical street outreach and stuff, but lots of different creative approaches.
We trained you well, Tom. We trained you well.
Is that what this was? A training?
Yeah.
And how about you, Brad? What do you think your evolution has been?
Blimey.
Apart from the beard.
Apart from the beard, yeah. This wasn't here 6 years ago. I got ID'd back then.
Just to balance out the human Dave, to your point there. Brian's doing us a favour.
I think certainly understanding speciesism and how arbitrary it is, and then sort of recognizing the commonalities with that and other forms of discrimination, and just seeing that obviously they're kind of all wrong. They're all as arbitrary as each other, and kind of being able to articulate that a bit more. Just in the sense that, you know, if it's wrong to discriminate on an arbitrary characteristic like sex, then it's just as wrong to discriminate on an arbitrary characteristic like species. And so just being able to argue against all forms of discrimination in that sense has that's certainly an evolution for me in the past couple of years. And I guess that ties into things like consistent anti-oppression and things like that, which really in the first couple of years of being vegan, and certainly before, didn't really enter my my arena at all. So things like that, I guess that's what first came to mind when we talk about evolution for me anyway.
What do people think of this interesting comment here? Because I posted something. Seb Alex has done a really interesting interview with Alex O'Connor, the cosmic skeptic, and he actually came out with a really interesting note, which was basically there isn't an animal rights movement. Everybody's read Singer, and it's interesting there because that's the kind of thing that Francione would say, and yet it's a little bit dated, isn't it? In the same way as that Francione would say this too, that the welfare movement is the happy exploitation movement. And so Kevin Watkinson was saying, well, yeah, but most of the people on the ground now, they might talk welfare, but they actually stand for abolition. So that this is kind of a little bit, you know, out of date now, isn't it, in a way? Because the problem with the movement now is not that everybody's promoting Meat-Free Monday and happy exploitation. It's the fact that they're promoting veganism and abolition, but using welfare language. Would you everybody agree with that, or am I way off beam as per usual?
Well, I listened to that podcast because I saw you posted a clip from it, Roger, when Alex is saying, you know, there isn't an animal rights movement because you can't really advocate for rights from a utilitarian framework or something to that effect. But that, I don't know what you think, but I thought Alex was essentially describing himself when he said that, because he's obviously
he's basically saying that he comes down on the utilitarian side and he doesn't think rights are particularly useful. But then he did say that there's kind of problems with both sides of things. It's a very interesting listen. There's lots of, I mean, you could have a full week seminar based on that one interview. It covers a lot, you know, deontology, utilitarianism, the problems between them. And then Alex has got a particular problem with the idea of the right to life. Now, Reagan talked about the right to life, but really, I think the right to life is the right not to be killed. Not, you know, so I think the right to life might be misnamed as much as anything.
Well, if anything, I can jump in there. I've been on it for a few minutes, so might as well get controversial. I mean, I have a problem with the right to life. And this you know, overlaps with the discussion I had with Brad recently. To me, it's not the right to life; it's the right not to be bred or forced to have children. To me, once they're here, we've already failed in a way.
Can you have?
Sorry.
Just a question. But can you attribute rights to someone that doesn't exist? And what kind of implications are there for women's rights?
Well, yeah, I think what was the language? I think it was Wendy's suggestion actually on the stream with Brad that unconceived was the language we started to use.
Unconceived, yeah.
Happy World Vegan Day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think regardless of where one wants, I mean, if one wants to use a rights-based framework, which I do think is another discussion, regardless of one where assigns, when one says, okay, now that they're an individual with basic moral rights, I think regardless of that discussion, I think someone having children, forcing someone to have children, and our fellow animals specifically, I'm not talking about human issues here. That to me is the focus. I'm not sure to me, to use the Reagan thing, wherever we draw the line of where the person starts to have rights, if it's at the unconceived stage or if it's literally when they're in the world. I mean, to me, it's more of an abstract. I'm not sure it changes the answer. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think you're just doing a sneaky backward advertisement for your last live that you did with Bran. I think that's what you're doing.
Oh, that was an interesting one.
Interesting, by the way. If anyone wants to catch that, it was all about antinatalism, the antinatalist philosophy.
Cheerful
I think very cheerful. there is that kind of difference in a way, isn't there? In that, because I agree with what Jeremy's saying, in that we ought to be focusing on not on the rights of the parenting, really, that we're forcing other animals to be parents, we're forcing the choice of the partner on them, we're exploiting their reproductive systems, we're controlling all of that regardless of the unconceived individual. So before the unconceived is even brought into consideration, we're forcing that onto those individuals, which is maybe slightly a different situation to in a human context, I suppose, because we have to respect the rights of their bodily autonomy, don't we?
I think that that is a violation of the bodily autonomy of the parents before anything happens. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And that gets tricky. I've been gone for a few months, so there's been a few things building up, so I've got to get them all out there. But to me, bodily autonomy comes down to more of a treatment focus, because I've engaged with farmers on the street that say, well, we just leave them in the field and they do what they want. To me, so they're in that instance, I'm not sure if their bodily autonomy has actually been violated.
It is, because even though the meaning of bodily autonomy is no one can decide what happens to my body. No one, at no point. So even if they leave those individuals alone for a period of time, when they drag them to their deaths, they mess with their bodily autonomy.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking more like two individuals in a field on their own, and yes, they're in this horrible, system of moral atrocities. But at that moment, they're in the field. The two of them, no human apes in the field with them. Is their bodily autonomy actually being violated by what they're doing? That's to me where bodily autonomy.
I see what
versus more the forced side of things. That's when I think it's more bodily autonomy. But that's not always the case. So it leaves us, and we all know that this it's a small gap, but that gap is, to me, significantly holding back the animal movement. This gap where there's this treatment focus that, yes, we talk about factory farming, but it's not just factory farming or forcing them to have children. It's it's the whole system. Maybe I'm getting a bit analytical though. I tend to do that.
What do you think about the language used, though? I mean, I'm going back to the interview that was mentioned previously. Do you think that although the majority of the movement, for me, it's like the whole movement, wants to see the end of other animals' use, exploitation, oppression, whatever is your preference, they may use a welfarist language, and isn't unfair for the movement to say that this is a welfarist movement?
I mean, I do think this movement does focus the language on treatment. I think I prefer to me, it's how we frame it. If we're one-on-one with someone, I think something that those in the chat as well as the six of us here have all tried to do is when we notice something about language and try to engage somebody about it, it can be quite tricky, depending on where they're at with it. But so I mean, I think we should definitely look for those opportunities. But I think just yelling from a soapbox, the movement's broken kind of thing, I'm not sure how constructive that is.
Yeah. There was a good video that Seb Alex did in response to Gary Francione's work, and if people have seen it, but which I guess I mostly would agree with the points that he made in that video. But I do think that it's probably best if we can try and sharpen up our language and move away from repeating some of the welfarist language, even though that's not necessarily the intention. But I guess I don't know. I guess it'd be hard to. how does that land with non-vegans most of the time? I don't really know. I don't know how that's being received, but I guess we know that it's not clear. So I guess there's a chance that it's not going to be clear to non-vegans anyway, and it's just going to allow them to latch on to what most people feel comfortable, which is welfareism anyway.
That's my key thing. Like, it's not like things are moving too quickly. Like, why not do everything we possibly can? And to me, language is the low-hanging fruit that could be our most powerful weapon. We're barely using it.
And it's not only, maybe it's not the easiest thing to change, but it's a thing that we can change. And I think that the political use of language within the movement, it's very important anyway. I mean, even if at sometimes it makes more difficult for non-vegans to understand, I think we can always find a golden medium there.
Oh, absolutely. It's a perpetual evolution. And I think the key thing I found is actually to make it as simple as possible. One of the most common euphemisms, meat, like, why not just talk about somebody's body? Like, that, to me, that's quite simple, but it also, lands the message a lot more than a lot of these euphemisms. So in some ways, like, it's harder on our end maybe to discover these things, but we can actually find a simpler alternative in the end. That's what I try to do, at least.
And even if a non-vegan is, doesn't really understand what you're saying, that is, if they ask you a question, if you provoked a question in them and you get an opportunity to then explain why you're saying what you're saying, that's always really useful, isn't it? Because it does break that trance of the language they're expecting to hear. If they just suddenly say, what are you talking about? Then you have an opportunity to say, oh, I don't call it that, and this is why. So then you've had a conversation without being preachy about it. You're just going, oh, that's not what I say now. So it's a good opportunity.
Exactly. How do we disrupt the culture when we're mirroring their language? We're just reinforcing a lot of what they're saying. I mean, I know there might be some change, but probably not as much. So
yeah, and that's where the welfareist treatment language, it's important that we're aware of that, because obviously we're then mirroring the industry language as well, because a lot of the welfare language that is used by the industry, because there are people in the industry advocating for better welfare standards or better treatment, but quite happy to carry on using other animals for human purposes. So we don't want to be mirroring that language either, and that's, I think, where maybe advocates ought to maybe get an understanding that that's what we're doing when we're talking about treatment, that we're mirroring that language as well. We're sitting side by side with the industries that we're trying to dismantle.
It's human nature, isn't it? When someone says something, it's quite natural to say it back. I mean, one of the new language things I've been playing around with is, instead of saying vegan food, saying animal-free food. And I was at a hotel a while back, and literally they were talking to me about restaurants, and I kind of said, oh, well, we eat animal-free kind of thing, and they use language back to me, and I suspect they don't talk about animal-free much in their day-to-day life without saying that. So it really can be a powerful tool.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess sometimes these things will need explanation, because the language is so avant-garde. If there's no attitudinal change, it could just go past it. But I appreciate what you're saying about having context and stuff, and be able to explain things, and finding that middle ground, I guess.
Somebody had that conversation with me recently about the carnist word. I was trying to point out my usual claim that it's essentially a vegetarian concept, and they were saying that people don't understand speciesism. But then we came to the general agreement that people don't understand carnism either. And so if you are to ripen people up to an idea, you might as well ripen them up to the idea that you stand for, rather than one that you imagine that they would understand a bit more.
Yeah, maybe we can do both. Maybe we can do something that they can understand, and it's what we believe. That's what I try to land at. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, what time is it in the UK now? With you doing daylight savings a week ahead of me, I have no idea what time it is there. So, what is it, about 8 o'clock or something? What's everybody doing?
Quarter to 8.
Quarter 8. So everybody have a World Vegan Day party or as I said earlier, World Respect for Our Fellow Animals Day party.
Oh, I like that
rolls
one.
off the tongue.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
as a no.
definitely. Well, no, Brian's having his party. He's just having his food now. So he's having his own party.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the
No, I'm
food
not.
because we're normally finished by now. So are you okay with carrying on, Wendy, or do we need to close down?
Oh well, I can nip off anyway if I need to do his little jab, and you folks can carry on.
Nip off's a very cat language, isn't it? Kind of like catnip.
Oh, you want to see them? I got these catnip plants over the summer, and the first day I got them was hilarious. It was just like put them out in the garden, and two of them, Brian and Pickle, his sister, they were kind of like knocking the pots over, and they were literally like rubbing themselves and rolling in them. And I went back about 10 minutes later, and Brian was just sitting there with his eyes closed like that. He was in catnip heaven. He was high as a kite and just doing that. And then about 10 minutes later, he was just lying down with his head in the plant.
Oh, I love those moments when you can see fellow animals just as like you can just see the joy on their face. Because I think it was a Sandra Higgins interview where the speciesist non-vegan guest was saying, oh, the people, animal advocates are very clever with photography, and they make them look this way as if they can experience emotion and all this crap that we all know is speciesist nonsense. But we just got dog booster seats for Dexter and Chewy, and Dexter with his head out the window and the wind's hitting his face, and you can see his nose is doing this, taking in all the smells, and his eyes are just that slowly, slightly shut. And you can see the joy, so it's palpable. I love.
I saw that picture you posted of the little booster seats, little head. Oh,
yes,
so
slick back hairdo because of the wind. Jeremy, I wanted to ask you about your new kind of screen name. Have you had any comments within or without the movement due to that?
Yeah, I found it's quite good. I mean, I think my surname is Hess, which isn't very memorable. So if nothing else, the ape is more memorable than Hess. But yeah, strategically, I think it is useful. I think more of us could identify as apes because I think it really, talking about the simplicity of it, I think it really challenges human supremacy and really drives at the fact that we are all animals. The street outreach I just did. I spoke with someone who, when they saw my name on the screen, they said, "Oh, Jeremy the Ape," and then they looked at me and like, "Oh yeah, we are apes, aren't we?" And it helps to break that down. And funnily enough, even as I was setting up for the street outreach, because I'm doing a table and 2 chairs type format, so it takes a bit to set up. College town, quite unique, but had a group of individuals walk by, and one of them walked up in front of my camera and kind of did, and I'm like, this is perfect for my Jeremy the Ape framing. But yeah, I haven't really had any challenges to it, to be honest.
I don't think apes make that noise. That's monkeys that make that noise, isn't it?
I wouldn't pretend to know, but I'm sure I'll get challenged on people saying, "Oh, well, humans evolved from apes," and all this stuff. And I actually printed something out for my outreach bag, that is literally a scientific case for why we are effectively apes, specifically great apes. Although I'll leave the great ape out because I think we've got enough ego without adding grape in front of our names.
So have you got one of those tables with the banner on it saying, "You're an ape, change my mind" or something?
I don't think that'd be a good idea.
Hey, I'm open to challenge. I'm open to trying anything. I mean, I'm not doing the change my mind type format. I've kind of taken a let's discuss approach at the moment. But yeah, actually, the biggest thing I'm thinking about investing in is a TV because it's at one of the biggest intersections. It's right at a stop sign, so loads of cars would stop and be hard not to look at a screen playing. But yeah, I am playing up with some banner ideas. So if anybody in the comments or anyone here wants to have any suggestions for what I should put on a banner, let me know, because I'm still using the same one for a few years ago that it's when it comes to animal use, what does your heart say? That was actually quite a good catalyst I found when I was doing outreach yesterday, because several people, one who rolled up and we had actually a really long chat, said, what does my heart say? It says vegan. And another group of cyclists actually just passing on the road quite far away they're like, my heart says vegan, and like really strong responses to that. So, yeah.
if there's
I wonder what their head says.
Yeah.
The head can get in the way of things, can it? That's emotion versus logic.
If there's an
thing, isn't
increase in people getting shunted from the back, it'll be down to you then, Jeremy. If you're stopping people in cars, watching, they're looking at screens.
We'll see if they try to remove me.
So, Brad, what are you up to now at the moment?
I've been living in Cambridge for over a year now, and I've recently.
You show off.
I've recently had a bit of a job change, so nowadays I'm essentially paid to cycle around Cambridge collecting and delivering laundry, which, whilst I've missed the best weather, is actually quite chill. So yeah, that's been good.
Do you have a Cambridge University tie?
No, I don't do ties. No, they wouldn't let me in the uni just to pick up their washing. That's about it.
No, but the thing, you should do the Spike Milligan thing, because he was wearing a Cambridge University tie. So you went to Cambridge? He said, yeah. He said, what were you doing there? He said, buying a tie.
I haven't seen that. More recent, like activism-wise, I haven't been for a few weeks due to a couple of reasons, including the vasectomy. But Camp Beagle, thank you. Camp Beagle is something that I had been attending with some regularity, and I'm planning to go back soon. And that's been really the only sort of pressure campaign I've ever been involved with. I know, Roger, you've spoken to Jake Conroy about, pressure campaigns versus vegan outreach, that sort of thing. So it has been good to be involved with something like that, because most of my activism previously has been vegan outreach.
Yeah, raises an interesting question though, because whenever I see Camp Beagle, it seemed to be the kind of old guard, if to use that phrase, John Curtin, Mel Broughton, and I don't see any of the younger activists advertising Camp Vegan or talking about it. So is there a mix, or are we getting, why am I only seeing the old guard on screen, as it were?
I think there is a mix, but definitely when I was at camp, I definitely thought to myself, like, this group are not the type that you'd see at your outreaches every other weekend. It is a kind of different, as you say, a lot of what I would see as old guard have been there and have been involved quite prominently. And I don't know if that's because it's vivisection and that's seen as, kind of like a founding pillar of the animal rights movement. I'm not too sure really, but there's definitely more of what you would say the old guard have been involved in that, for sure.
I think there are. Sorry, Tom. I just wanted to say, no, at the camp there are definitely people who do both, who do kind of outreach. There are a lot of activists who go up there from from London, and they are involved in outreach, like Earthlings Experience, anti-fur demos, anti-vivisection protests, and the camp. So I know people who kind of do a real mixture of things who go there as well. I just wanted to add that in. So sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think John recently got banned by the police, which he announced on his Instagram. So I think he's no longer allowed back at the site, unfortunately.
Do you know what the grounds were for that? Because if it's a public space, you can't ban someone from a public space, can you?
No, he's been bailed. He was up at the High Court and he got bailed, but I think his hearing is in January. So I think it's some kind of injunction where he's not allowed to go there at the moment.
Oh, like a restraining order, kind
of thing, I guess, an injunction. But,
I think there was what kind of became more noticeable in some of the videos that I saw, and John spoke about this, is that as the protest is going on longer, police kind of became more agitated with some of the protesters, so they would like push down a sign, and the idea I get made behind that is to try create some agitation amongst the protesters, and then if they do something back, then it's like they can start arresting people and they can start dampening down the protest. So whether something happened along in that kind of with that in mind, I don't know. But
it's been a few months, hasn't it? Camp Beagle.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I want to say June, July is when it really first started.
So nearly half a year.
Yeah, and obviously going into the winter now, which weather-wise is going to provide some challenges. I think they've already erected some kind of stronger tents and things like that. So yeah, they're prepping for it, and yeah, I'm hoping to pop along soon again.
Brad, now that you had the experience of the campaign and by getting involved with this one, has your mindset about campaigns changed? Do you feel that we need to do everything? Do you need that we need to find whatever suits us best and stick to that? What's your take on the different kinds of activism?
I think frustratingly, despite now I say I've been involved in Camp Eagle, not to the degree of my previous experience with outreach. But yeah, despite now having a bit of experience with both, I'm still none the wiser, to be honest. It does, this question does seem to crop up everywhere, and it.
Well, you're a great help.
Charming.
Come on, Tom told us what's most effective. You can tell us. Give us all the answers.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit of a non-answer, really, but I also don't want to say, oh yeah, let's just do both, because that's just kind of what everyone says as well, and doesn't really, that's about as much as a non-answer as saying I don't know. But I'll go with I don't know. Sorry. Maybe I need a bit more experience in both.
I think it's great, the system, supply, political stuff that people are exploring, but I'll definitely put my flag in the sand and say I think we should focus on outreach in the demand side, because until we hit critical mass, we can't change these systems. We can't go straight to the source and just stop all these moral atrocities from happening when 99% of the population is indifferent to them. Yeah, that's my take.
I've missed phrases like that, Jeremy. I've missed phrases like that. I'll put my flag in the sand. Everybody else speaks English. But,
it's just like one of our old meetings, isn't it?
Yes.
We used to chat like this for hours before when we're doing our show meetings.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got 2 hours to go if it's like one of those.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, we have been going for a while. What do you want to do, people? Do you want to carry on or what?
I probably have to go quite soon.
Okay.
I would just say real quickly, because I didn't answer the kind of personal development thing. I think.
Oh yes.
For me, the veganism is just kind of. I mean, I obviously did it for our fellow animals, but for me, it's been a tremendous personal development. Just seeing the world in a new way. I mean, I was walking with our fellow animal family members, Dexter and Chewy, in the park just nearby here, and I don't know if any of you have seen an assassin bug. I'll take that as a no. So, yeah, so that's literally the name of them, and I saw this small individual, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, this is intriguing. I'll go a little bit further. They are the size of my thumb. I measured using my phone because you can do a placement thing, but they're the most fascinating creature. They're a mix between like a spider and a beetle, and yeah, and I looked them up, assassin bugs. So there you go, and it's I just hit my 40th birthday. I've been around a few decades, and I've never seen one of them before, and I just feel like.
Yeah, but we want to know why they got the name. What's the name about?
Well, it's probably one that Vegan Gains might not be so happy about. But yeah, I think the reason they get the name, it's quite predatory in nature. If we're going to use the. But yeah, I think I saw because the top of they're just such a fascinating little individual, because they have this like pointy bit, which I assume is where they get the assassin title from, that pokes down. But they saw me. That's the fascinating thing, is like in all these interactions, I continue to evolve my thinking. I was quite a ways away from them, and I saw their little head look up at me, and then they backed up, almost as to say like, well, I don't want to fight you, but if you want to fight me, game on, kind of thing. And they're like, you could tell they were a force, and they have this little spiky back thing. I'll have to link a picture later. But
really, really fascinated to see a picture. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, to me that's what it's all about, like just evolving understanding and just like really putting ourselves in the eyes of the other, and really contemplating things from their perspective. I think that's the beautiful thing that evolves every single day. And I wouldn't have that understanding of the world if it weren't for respecting our fellow animals through veganism. So that's my personal development. That's probably a key part for me.
That has reminded me of another aspect of evolution for me that, to do with respect. Obviously, years back when I kind of tacitly thought that animals were here for us, when it came to companion animals, I would have no kind of restraint about running up to them and picking them up and, infantilizing them, some may say, without kind of considering whether they wanted that interaction to take place. So now I'm a lot more cognizant of just observing their behavior and recognizing that if they're not up for a chat, I'm not going to force it, basically. So
yeah, it happens at sanctuaries too, doesn't it? Like, oh, I'm vegan, you're a pig, let's be friends.
Yeah,
like, they may not want to
vegans thinking they're like cow whisperers or something.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what we said at French. The vegans turn up and think they're like cow
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's a few male-presenting people who need to learn that lesson as well. There you go.
And you do get people just kind of hovering over other animals and then just going, oh, take my picture, and you're just like, that pig looks really like, really traumatized by you, just like step away from the pig person. No, I relate to that. And actually, Brad, you had an interaction with a dog person at Camp Beagle, actually, didn't you, who was kind of didn't really ask for your consent so much. She was very...
I thought you were going to mention the interaction with the pig friend who was chasing me around
There's a bit of a trend there, Brad.
That was the reverse. The pig one interacted.
I know, I did not consent to that.
Is it on film?
Actually,
I think some of it is.
I got some, yeah. I'm saving that for a rainy day.
Well, winter's coming.
Well said.
Indeed.
Yeah, that was. I'd forgot about that. Yeah. Other animals are very drawn to you, Brad, aren't they?
It's all the.
At least someone is.
Are there some kind of wafting hormones from that beard that you're?
Yeah, must be.
Out there, I don't know.
This is quite short compared to last year. Used to be down here.
Maybe for the bird individuals, they're thinking they could nest in your beard. Maybe that's why.
Oh, yes.
So maybe
pull some strands up.
I'm finding this conversation has gone beardist now. It's all this beardism.
You'll be there soon, Roger. You'll be able to.
I'm looking forward to seeing them inside. Even though it might blow off in the wind, but.
Are we going to get a daily update? Do we get to vote what style of mustache
I
should grow, or what are we?
We'll get a weekly one because you'll see me on the show, but that's about it, I think. But, I haven't officially signed up yet, so I don't know how it's even going to work. And usually this particular Movember is usually for prostate cancer, I believe. So I don't even know whether it would be frowned upon for them to make it about a sanctuary. Going back to the conversation before about sanctuaries, because I know Jeremy and others, even in the chat, think that sanctuaries are really good outreach tools, as it were. But then you've got that issue, as you mentioned Sandra Higgins, she actually doesn't allow the public on her sanctuary because of privacy issues, How do you
for
gain
the fellow animals or
yeah, how do you the consent is difficult if you have an open day in a sanctuary,
One thing that I've seen done, I've visited maybe a dozen sanctuaries now. One thing that I think is every situation is unique, and I'm not necessarily not saying what should be done, but I think one way that does work is to have almost basically a fenced area for the apes to walk down, and then maybe private tours if they want to have more of a engagement, and then you can be like a one person,
for the
one
apes,
representative with six.
I'm just going to clarify for TikTok that Jeremy means for the humans.
Human apes, maybe I should say. Maybe human apes would be better.
Hairless, out of control apes.
But yeah, almost corral us, because a beautiful story Mark tells at Friend is when the sanctuary first started, it was a big open area. All the individuals, all the residents and survivors of speciesism were in a common area, and they had a small cage in the middle, and that's where the human apes collected. So it was like we were in the cage, and then everybody else was around. So other than human animals. So, but I think that's, to me, the solution is have a clear protection for the residents, and then a monitored interaction. Putting it simply.
Is that going to be the policy at your sanctuary, Jeremy?
Yeah, true. This is the name we're going with for Respect Animal Sanctuary. We're still ways off. We've got some things to sort out before then, but I think we'll be small enough where I think we will do the visitor thing, but on a very, like monitored basis. We wouldn't just leave people to go and interact how they wish.
Is this a mini one? Is this a mini one?
Yeah, probably micro sanctuary. It's been referred to as a bit of a Noah's Ark, representatives of different species. Because I know for me, my understanding was like, well, what about cows? Okay, cows are individuals. Well, what about pigs? What about chickens? What about a fish?
What about the money? Here's a controversial one. Sanctuaries are expensive, and in terms of looking after a few individuals, in the scheme of things, is that a good use of the money? I mean, I don't know whether Francione makes that point, but he makes that point about welfare and everything. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? The fact that we put a lot of resources and a lot of time. I mean, people who work on sanctuaries, they do incredibly long hours. They're always on call. They're always there in terms of vets and all that. Would that be seen as a waste of money? I don't want to put it that way, but
I don't know if anybody.
May I add something?
I would never say it that way.
No, may I add something to that before Jeremy can answer? These are always rescued individuals, aren't they? The residents in the sanctuaries.
Yeah.
So we should factor this into our, rationale about it, because if we can rescue them, and then they have to go somewhere. We would never say that it's like too expensive to rescue only 3 humans. So let's not rescue them, would we? Even if we were talking about like millions of dollars.
Yeah, to flip it to test approach, no one would oppose the Schindler's List, what they were trying to do, rescuing individuals there, would they? But yeah, even within the animal movement, you hear it. I think the thing I'd like to give a quick pitch for is the Micro Sanctuary Resource Center, because to me, I think, complete admiration for the larger sanctuaries. However, I think the micro sanctuaries are the future, because all 6 of us, I'm not saying we should, but we possibly could take in a single individual, a chicken, for instance, depending where we live. And this group, please fact check it on your own, but I believe they're doing a grant program which can start someone off with maybe around $500 to get some of the basic stuff set up. And I can't think of a better use of money, because not just for the interactions that they have in their own local community, but if the person chooses to tell their stories on social media. I mean, look at Esther the Wonder Pig. I mean, just if you haven't done it, it's an enjoyable experience. Just look through their posts. I mean, they have 1.5 million followers on Facebook, and all their posts are just so positive, and everyone's, engaging in these conversations that wouldn't otherwise happen. So I think there's potential for that, all of us to do that, and I'm kind of, aiming somewhere in between, more than one individual, but not, hundreds. So I think, to me, there's no better use of money than saving the individual, or helping them to liberate themselves, depending on how we want to frame it.
Well, on the chicken point you made, Jeremy.
Did you say on the chicken point?
On the chicken point. Yeah. On the chicken assassin point. Seb Alex did say that he rescued a chicken individual, and the first thing he was told was to get a couple more, because they're so social individuals, they don't really thrive on their own. I don't know if that's true or not.
I'd say it's down to the individual. I mean, just as a general observation, I think, to me, I would avoid saying anything about any particular species having a different behavior to another species. But yeah, to Dave's question, I don't have property at the moment, so that is a necessary component, but I'm targeting around 10 acres. But yeah, still very much up in the air as to where that'll be. It'll be somewhere in North America. We'll see where.
It'll be great.
Because I'd be curious for the critics of sanctuaries, where do they think the money would be better spent? And I'm not saying we shouldn't do other forms of advocacy, but to critique sanctuaries to me is really showing how backwards the movement is, and we're losing that animal-centric focus, which I know Roger and I have long chats on in the archives people can go back to for that discussion.
Yeah, I wasn't really critiquing it. I was just being devil's advocate there, really, just to raise the issue, you know. So, I mean, as you know, I do back into daylight often enough. You know? I mean, there are aspects of sanctuaries that do worry me a little bit. I mean, sometimes they're a little bit like a semi-open prison, you know. So, in that respect, you know, you've got to think in terms of the layout, the interaction, the amount of volunteers who can interact with the other animals, rather than just, as it were, warehousing them. And I think that the smaller sanctuaries are better in that sense. If I remember when Sandra was starting the sanctuary, she asked me about my experience of the sanctuaries in England, and I said they're all overcrowded, because, as you know, if you do open your sanctuary, Jeremy, you're going to start getting emotional blackmail. You take this one, or we're going to kill them. And so you might end up with more than you intended, and more than you wanted, and more than you can cope with. So sanctuary work can be quite emotionally and draining, you know, in that sense.
Absolutely. Saying no is one of the most difficult, but also one of the most important things, I think, for sanctuaries, and for the people who say yes and they manage through it. I think absolutely. And I guess that's why I'm so focused on, you know, bringing things full circle back to the beginning of this conversation, why I'm so focused on the breeding. And I think once someone's already here, once they move from that unconceived and individual here, we have kind of failed them in a way, because even in a vegan world, there's these messy, complicated solutions. So sanctuaries aren't perfect. You know, we're doing the best we can for them while they're here.
I would agree with Dave here, of course.
What's that?
I said I would agree with Dave here, of course. So.
Yeah. You have that situation, even, you know, rescuing or rehoming the little cat people here. There's so many times that there have been other animals that people have said, oh, would you be able to give this person a home? And it's like, and I've tried that before, and there have been times when I've had quite a lot of cat people living here, but now there's such a balance, and then there's different medical issues, and they're all getting older now. One of the cats is quite elderly, Brian's diabetic. They've all got their certain issues that have to be dealt with. So even taking another cat person into that situation is really challenging. But so many times I feel like I really want to give this little person a home, and then I have to say no, and it breaks your heart. But then you're kind of thinking about the people that are already living here, and they can't consent to it, and then they've got to go through that whole transition, and how's that going to be for them? So even in that situation, it's really difficult. And I see people who run sanctuaries having that sort of dilemma all the time, and having to turn people away when they would love to give them a space, but they just can't, because they're thinking of the ones that are already there, and giving them a good quality of life as well. So very challenging.
Do you remember, any of you, the first time you had an encounter with a non-human individual after going vegan, immediately after? Do you remember the first time that you look at them and you saw someone equal? For the first time in your life, I assume, because it happened for me. That's why I assume.
Yeah, it's a great question, because I think a lot of animal advocates still embrace species hierarchy, which places human apes at the top. So I think a lot of us are probably still working on it. I think I'm only just recently really looking at, others as not just like, oh yeah, we're both individuals, but like literally equal.
Well, I mean, equal is controversial, isn't it? Because you've got this distinction between equal consideration and equal treatment. And so philosophers, both Reagan and Singer, for example, would make a distinction between those two things. They'll be calling for equal consideration, but not expecting necessarily equal treatment. Because...
sorry, I meant of equal moral value. I should have...
Yeah, wouldn't equal treatment be treatment focused? Putting it crudely.
No, it's just the phraseology of that philosophical thing, because I mean you'd say that about humans as well. So it's that's a language issue. Yeah, yes.
Sounds like we're due for another debate.
Yeah, typical of you to pick up on the language. What a surprise. Well, I can tell you that the TikTok experiment has been rather a failure. I think the most we've had on is about 4 people. And we're down to 2 now on TikTok. And I think the reason for that is that we're not really interacting with TikTok, but also I think some people would say that this is a rather intellectual for TikTok as well. I think that's what some people would say. And essentially, you've got to kind of be there to argue with people to get the thing. I mean, the Vegan Songstress has found a really good way of interacting on TikTok. And I mean, they're now getting, thousands of people each time. And the good thing about it is, at first it was something like, I think about 300,000 or something. And of course that meant the comments were just going so quick you couldn't even see them. Now it's kind of calmed down and people are staying and actually asking legitimate questions in between all the meat emojis, of course. But TikTok is interesting, but it's not worked today for us. And we've gone up to 3 because I mentioned TikTok. TikTok. TikTok.
Is that what you're thinking in your head during these live streams as the time's ticking by? TikTok.
Is it a clock or is it a bomb, brother?
It's a digital clock.
Look who's just joined us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, look at that.
Class, what time?
What's going on?
Hey up, huh?
I don't think Mass is in a different time zone. Got to be a story there.
A different planet zone, I think. Right.
So, it was really great to have the whole gang back together. Thank you for coming on.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself, Wendy.
Sounds like there were some negotiations before this.
No, it was all agreed straight away. And then we all said yes to the idea. So,
yeah, it's great to be back. I know I've looked at the animal rights show as a key part of my evolution as an animal advocate. I think my personality doesn't necessarily lend itself to working with others. I think I like to just put my head down and do things on my own often. And it's been great just to connect.
I can confirm
that. Where's that mute button? I used to be able to mute Roger. That was a lot more fun.
I know, yeah.
I know. Roger's in the got the eject button now. Every time I do that, my bulb flipping goes off and on again. Oh.
Yeah, look, I can do it. I can do it to Jeremy. Look. So, Jeremy, you were saying there, mate. Sorry. What were you saying?
I was going to say you need one of those, the Graham Norton show. Like he has got that lever.
Oh, yeah, like the big red chair.
If I mention the H word, do I get the boot?
If you mention the Y word, you would. But what we need is like a James Bond ejector seat. That'd be even better, wouldn't it? That'd be really good.
Or maybe a trap door so the person just falls down. That's like the Simpsons. Doesn't the boss have? I'm forgetting the names off the top of my head, but a button on his desk and Burns. Yeah, button and someone falls into the pit below. That'd be good. Excellent.
I'm feeling a little bit sorry for Elliot because Elliot is about 30 minutes behind, I think.
Oh, Elliot.
So sorry about that, but I did put a couple of comments up, but it's very difficult to put comments up when they're 30 minutes behind, to be honest, Elliot. So sorry about that.
Is there anything you'd like to tell Elliot 30 minutes in the future?
Hey, that's an idea, isn't it? Yeah. Elliot, we're not here anymore.
That was real.
It's all the figment of your imagination, mate. This is a dream. This is a dream, Elliot. Sorry.
Look into my eyes, Elliot.
We're not here.
And since you said dream, Roger, I had the most weird dream last night. I had this dream, and in my dream, I was not a vegan anymore. And I woke up panicking. It was a really awful feeling.
Oh, that's horrible. That's a
Was
nightmare.
Was there context? Like, were you doing anything?
I was going into a restaurant, and they knew that I'm going to go to eat other animals' flesh, and I was so annoyed by the flesh, and but still I knew that I was going to do it, and I was trying to understand why I'm not a vegan anymore. And the moment I sat at the moment I sat at the table, I woke up, thankfully, but it was really.
Oof.
I'm sure it was
Really
Satan.
The thing is, if you're having a dream and you actually ate flesh, I wonder if that would actually make you feel horrible when you woke up. It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? So,
Psychologically, probably not much different, is it? Because I think with lucid dreaming, we can experience things that are very similar to the real world. Absolutely, yeah.
it's a good phrase, lucid dreaming. I've heard from several people recently that their lucid dreaming has increased quite a lot, and some people are associating with long C word. So I don't know whether that's got any veracity to it, but that's what people are speculating about.
Well, you can definitely control it in my experience. I mean, that's probably not a topic to get into now, but you can definitely control your dreams. I mean, that's what lucid dreaming is all about, isn't it? But it takes practice.
It's the one that
it's
you
good
kind
fun,
of
though.
you're having a dream and then you get up and go for a pee and come back and you can get back into the same one. That's
you're
happen,
drifting in and out
doesn't
of
it?
sleep. Yeah, I'm more conscious of the barrier between the sleep world and the real world. Yeah.
On that note,
this is good.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully it is.
This is very Matrix. Yeah, so I've got the blue button or the red button. So which one should I press? That's the question.
Is this a dream within a dream?
Oh wow!
They're spooky films when people wake up from a dream but they're still dreaming, right? And then they have to wake up all over again.
Oh, you've just reminded me of a really, really old episode of Tales of the Unexpected. Do you remember that show, anyone? Roger, you might remember that. Ronnie in the chat, he might remember. And it was that he went to sleep. He kept getting, I think he was getting killed or something. He was dreaming he was getting killed and he kept waking up. And then he'd relive that whole scene again. And he was like, oh, I'm in a phone box. And then every time he woke up, he was reliving the same thing. And he just kept waking up but reliving it. It was really
Groundhog
spooky.
Day. Did anybody know why it's called Groundhog Day? What's the reference to groundhogs? Do you know?
It's quite speciesist, but yeah, it's I guess it has to do with whether the groundhog sees their shadow or not, and that having to do with when winter's going to end. But yeah, attaching the seasons to.
I don't understand that. What do you mean when winter's going to? I don't understand that.
I think it's something, I forget which way it goes, but something along the lines, if they see their shadow, there'll be another 6 weeks of winter, or it might be the other way around. But there's a whole celebration about it. You probably saw the celebration in the movie if you remember the movie. But it's quite a peculiar one. If you live the same
I've
day
never
over
seen.
and over,
I've never
what we
seen
do
them. I've never
change.
seen the movie. I've seen clips. I've never seen the movie. So.
Oh, it's definitely worth a watch. What is it?
I
Bill
have seen
Murray?
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Murray and is it Andy McDowell or someone?
I like
Not Andy
anything that
McDowell.
plays with time travel is fascinating. Yeah, you think you could do anything and then you just start the day over again. It could be a nightmare, but yeah.
Yeah, this is Maz's description of the show so far. So.
And Top of the Munch remembers Tales of the Unexpected. Yeah, silhouette dancing. Do 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 do. Do you remember?
That's the Avengers, isn't it? The original one. Was...
Well, it might be similar, but or maybe didn't do it justice. You have to go and look that up now. You'll know what I'm talking about. And that wobbly
Anglia,
anglia, yes.
I remember that, yeah, it's spinning round kind of horse thing, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. Well, we've really gone off topic now, so.
We've been going 2 hours 23 minutes. Wow, that's our record show, I think.
Blimey. Yeah, I mean, loads of people are going to watch the recording now, aren't they? They're going to look at that and go,
No one.
We might as well just keep going. 4 hours. Nobody doing anything next 2 hours.
Well, I did do. Yeah, actually, I did do that thing. What did I do? 8 hours? 12 hours? What did I do on Christmas Day last
At Christmas.
12.
It was
wasn't
long.
Oh, you went longer, didn't you? You planned for 12, and didn't you go 14 or 15 or something?
No, I don't think it was that. No. And then I know that somebody did a 24-hour one after that. I think David Rams. I think they did a 24-hour one. But yeah, ripped off my idea.
Should have had it.
Yeah. Okay, folks. I think we might say goodbye. It's very gratifying that 14 people have stayed with us, even though we've just been rambling about TV shows for about now. So thank you. Oh, we've gone up to 15 now. What's going on? TikTok. We're down to 2 on TikTok. Never mind.
Elliot's 6 minutes behind now. Oh,
he's
Elliot's time traveling.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. How does it?
He's obviously thought, oh, sod this, and skipped about 20 minutes.
Speed us up.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear Elliot be 6 minutes or 30 minutes ahead of us. Elliot can tell us to be in the store.
That would be great, wouldn't it? Jeremy is about to say, that'd be brilliant if he
The
could
stock
go ahead.
market's still open for another 5 minutes. What should I buy?
Yeah, kind of. Wendy, don't look behind you. And
Oh, don't say that. That's really giving me chills.
Oh, we just had the Halloween here in the U.S. and my sister has a phobia of clowns, so I did the kind thing and dressed up as a clown. So lots of stories.
Pictures.
I think I might use cruelty language to describe that. I think.
Yeah, so I'm in the clear. I'm not a welfare advocate. I'm a rights advocate. So there you go. It's not about
thanks,
cruelty.
Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
The rights of clowns. Actually, there's a condition, isn't there, which nobody can remember the name of.
Glorophobia or something, isn't it?
Fear of clowns.
Yes, fear of clowns. Yeah.
I don't think she's that serious. Otherwise, I would take it more seriously. It's a bit of a
Dave, when I started watching
Sounds like you've got some competition, Roger.
Well, when I started, I had it. Right.
Oh, thank you all for coming on, and yeah, let's do it again.
Yes,
Sounds good.
Pick a topic and do it again.
May every day be World Vegan Day.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Marijuana
Even people in the chat are getting a bit weird now. So,
it's catching.
I say embrace the weird. Life's too boring when we're quote, normal.
Weird is great.
So he's even using the bunny ears. We're not talking about animals.
Oh, it's just a reflex. I just do this.
Strongest
fingers.
Get repetitive strain injury from that, Jeremy. It's just gonna be like.
I actually just need to hang some fingers up here. That for everything I say, then
so Jeremy,
everything's in scare quotes.
Well, it's obviously clearly the case that we don't know how to end this, do we? So
we all have to go at the same time. That's what we did when you had a power cut, Roger, and Nella, me, and Richard Debut.
Oh yeah, we counted down from 10. We could do that. Count down from 10. That'd be funny.
We only counted from 3.
Hang on a second. I haven't even got the end thing ready yet. Hang on. Keep talking, people.
We could talk about what veganism means to each of us. That would fill another 20-30 minutes.
Oh yes. We were supposed to answer that one at some point, but we didn't.
End it with Brian. Brian's having his munch at the moment, Dave.
And is not a performing other animal either. So. Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, I bet that's really interesting. We'll probably
in that case, what will happen if I do this? What's going to happen now?
Or talk really slowly. Be normal.
Hey, Elliot. How are you doing?
How are you doing, Elliot? How's it going?
Good to see you. Happy World Vegan
Thanks for coming
Day.
on the show, everyone.
Shall we end this?
If anyone hasn't played the emoji, Brad's like, this is not what I signed up for. If anybody hasn't played the emoji game, highly recommended for some self-care. It's a card game, and one of the cards that can be drawn is you have to do a whole round in half speed, and that's good fun. So I'm especially practiced in that discipline.
Talk about Yoda. So end show we will. That's Yoda, isn't it? End show we will.
You've all lost the plot, buddy.
So let's do the countdown then. I'll probably get this wrong, but there you go. Let's do 5. Okay. 5, 4, 3. Thunderbirds. I go 2.
Keep fighting for our fellow animals.
Yay!
Peace out.